need to take it seriously, like you trying to diss that particular area, because every time that there's a flat earther on the channel or whatnot, you have a slew of people in there that say that the globe earther got destroyed, and of course you're going to have the people that are on the globe side saying that no, the flat earther got destroyed. So I mean, I feel like this particular point is kind of moot. I get that you want to have somebody decent on the opposite side to combat like a bad idea, but the fact is that they had two people on, or Kyle here had two people on that were on opposite sides of this one particular question. And yeah, they went to the ethno-state kind of thing, but I mean, you can't honestly expect like them to just have experts on hand every single time they go live, because some wild-haired thing might come up.
That's not my position,
They
man.
weren't able to vet or do deep background research on the two people that they had.
It doesn't take that much deep background research to understand that Psycho is a nationalist.
Okay, then the audience will understand that as well.
Good. We're moving on. All right. Who hasn't spoke yet?
I haven't said much. I'll say something. Yeah. So I think one of the things that comes to my mind constantly is, I'm just a little curious. How stupid do you guys think your audiences are?
They're not.
Okay, because I would agree that I would agree. I think that my audience is fairly intelligent, and I think that when you have a crazy white nationalist and a crazy black nationalist talking about their crazy ethno-states, I don't need to handhold my audience who's listening to that stuff to the position that this is a crazy idea. I have some faith in my audience. God forbid I use that word in this channel. I have confidence in my audience to be able to be adults for the most part, to be able to understand that some ideas are just not really going to catch on with the broader public, which is why they have it. Which is why you have to go out looking for black nationalists and white nationalists, and why they don't get a lot of playtime, and why people generally are very, they're not really into the whole ethno-state thing. I would be perfectly confident having a crazy black nationalist and a crazy white nationalist on my discussion debate channel, because I would have confidence in my audience to be able to understand these are probably, I would say, demonstrably very silly ideas.
Sure. Yeah, and if you looked in the live chat, I mean, that's basically, how everybody was taking it, with the exception. I mean, even the people who were outraged by it, they knew it was bullshit, and the people who weren't outraged by it knew it was bullshit. So everybody knew it was bullshit, just people reacted to it differently.
But do you think those are the only people that are ever going to watch your video, is just your audience? Do you not look at any further than that? So...
Well, how many people out of 1,000 have to be convinced of a bad proposition until it's no longer justified to have the opposing opinion on the discussion?
Correct.
Right, and like he was saying, like we should have those on, and there's such fringe views that we have to go out and find these people. But the problem is that big ideas start off as small ideas, and that was something like I was talking earlier about being proactive and seeking out these bad ideas and facing them head on before they turn into a self-induced and they just breed amongst themselves and spread their bad ideas and grow into a colony, and then before you know it, it's out of control.
Well, I get you should nip things in the bud, but at the same time, it needs to be in a more controlled environment if you're going to take on one nationalist at a time, not two. I kind of agree with that.
Sure.
But,
right.
So, I mean, you need one and a strong opposing view to that.
But it was never nationalism. It was never slavery.
I don't think so.
I know. I get that.
Hey, right.
Y'all, this is Casey. I'm going to jump in here for a second because I literally have had not one single second to say a thing. So, I feel like you guys are trying to... you're expecting people to be able to control things that are not necessarily controllable all the time. You cannot necessarily, you have moderators, and the moderators should definitely, guide the conversation. If they go off topic, you guide them back. And I think that's what Kyle and Steve typically do in their shows, or whoever is on the show moderating. So, I think you're trying to control, like with Mel, are the only people who are going to see this your audience? No, but you can't control that particular thing. And so I don't know. I feel like I feel like there are a lot of things you can't control. You control the things that you can. And like, I wouldn't have JF or a white nationalist on my channel, but I don't have a debate channel, right? So I think there are some cases in which we shouldn't platform certain people. And in certain ways, if you're just going to have,
what are those
you're
rules,
just going to have somebody on there just to spout their ideas, that's different. Because one of the things I heard a little bit ago was who you're going to promote. When you have somebody on your channel, that is not necessarily promoting them.
Exactly.
And a lot of the people that you have on your channel have more followers or subscribers than you do. So like, you're not providing them something they do not already have.
Yeah, but what I think what Ocean and myself and John were trying to get at as far as the white nationalist thing is like, if you have prior knowledge that they're both nationalists and you had them on a completely different subject, like that's just a bad idea from the get-go. Or I mean, it's just something that should be prepared for. I mean,
I do want to
ask.
Everybody's going to agree
with
with
Casey. I have a question for Casey. What particular people do you not want on your show? Because you mentioned that there are some cases where that's not allowed. I'm curious to what your ideas are for that.
Oh, no, not that it's not allowed. I'm just saying, like, for my personal opinion, like me, I wouldn't put JF on my channel at all, no matter who he was against.
Well, you mentioned that there
also
shouldn't be people who get, you mentioned that there are people that shouldn't get platforms. That's what I was saying, that there are cases where you shouldn't do that. I was just curious who those are.
Well, I don't mean generally speaking. I mean, I wouldn't do it. But again, I feel like other people have the right to do it if they have the appropriate setting for it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't, okay. I don't think that people, kind of like I said, I don't think people should just be put on and allowed to spout their ideas unchallenged. I think that's a bad idea.
So I would be against Matt Lauer having a white nationalist on the Today Show. But I would not be against a white nationalist going on to a debate channel and talking to somebody with an opposing view. So like, in other words, I have no problem with bad ideology given a platform so long as it has opposition.
That's how we determined
when was the
they
last
were bad
time
ideology.
You saw the Today Show?
Yeah, Matt Lauer isn't on the Today Show.
Oh, well.
So Matt Lauer got his little. He got his.
Oh yeah,
little
that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
I think that everybody can also agree in here that yes, that show in particular was hijacked. Like, we're not saying that there was any intention of having two nationalists on to discuss nationalism.
Right.
The show was hijacked.
Today's show. I was about to say.
No,
yes,
I'm talking about NonSequitur.
Yeah, but so what? They went to a weird subject matter. So what? It was a one-off debate. What is? I don't get why we're beating up on that one topic. That it makes no sense.
That's an issue.
Yeah, I don't think that one topic is a big deal. I don't think that's a problem. But I do think that overall, though, it is a very serious issue in the community, and that it does need to be talked about in general.
Yeah, these things need to be talked about.
Well, when they started talking about the ethno-state, to me, it just got really uncomfortable. And
sure.
And then they're agreeing with each other that like they could separate the country and have the whites over here and the blacks over here, and we shouldn't mix. And you know, like, my son is part Native American, and so I got offended because I'm like,
so
really. So these conversations are going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes these conversations are going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes they're going to make you look. Listen, I sit here in this chair every night almost, and I get uncomfortable at some point in this chair, hearing the things that I have to hear night after night, whether it be dragons in the Sahara. Or these things, if you're gonna say these things get hijacked by people going off on the rails, then that would mean that 90% of these conversations that go on here are hijacked in some way or form, because they will start out with one particular topic and move off into 900 different things. The key here is, though, it's only a problem because the person that it was going off the rails with says things that a lot of people don't like. That's where the heart of this goes to.
How did you guys determine that ethno-states are so bad if there was nobody on the discussion to oppose them?
Well, that's.
I think you're straw manning our complaint, dude.
I'm not saying that's your position.
Well, right, but like to respond to what you were saying, I mean, would you have a problem with people talking about ethno-states, but in a debate against people who were against ethno-states? Would you not be interested in watching something like that?
Me?
Too.
I'd be interested.
Yeah.
I would be more comfortable if we're talking about ethno-states in an environment where there's not like two people agreeing that we should be in an ethno-state.
No. What I mean is that there's one person who agrees that we should be in an ethno-state and another person who thinks that we shouldn't be. Like if there was opposition.
Correct. Like I feel like you need to have balance in those kinds of situations. And the conversation got extremely uncomfortable because you have two people agreeing that, yes, this is what we should be doing. And everyone should be white and everyone should be black. And that's
right,
it.
But what do you do? But what do you do whenever it does go off into that rabbit hole? And I mean, all you can do is redirect it back. I mean, it happened, but it's not like that was what the debate was over. You know, it wasn't over. Is nationalism right?
Right. I'm
like
just saying
now, I do agree that there should have been a little bit more foresight. Like it's really close to nationalism. So like you probably should have thought about that. But love you, Kyle.
No, you don't have to. Look. You don't have to feel any pity or anything from me. I am very well firm and confident in the position that I'm taking. I've had a guy sit across from me in the live chat. Somebody remind me. I've had a guy sit across from me on this show and look at me in the eyes and tell me that I deserve to be stoned to death because I'm gay, and we were able to have a conversation past that. And that's because I am not going to shy away from a conversation that might make me uncomfortable or might make me angry because they say things that I don't like. That's life. People are going to say things that you don't like. People are going to make you uncomfortable. You either have to run as far away from it and not go around it, or you have to get over it and push through it. And a lot of times if you get over that hump or that initial disagreement that you have, you might actually have a fruitful conversations 9 times out of 10. I'm going to use the example of Brittany Simon and Sargon of Akkad when they came on here. Both of them thought that they were going to hate each other because they're on two completely different ends of the spectrum. After the show was over, they sat in the call after we had stopped streaming for like an hour and a half. We were all talking. They were making connections. The incel debate. Do you know how many people I had email me telling me stop giving the incels a platform? All they do is espouse hate. They're extremists. You need to stop giving them your platform. Well, I kicked a guy off on that first incel debate. It's King Gigacell, and he may be watching. I kicked him off because of the things that he was saying. He was that bad, and he emailed me saying, I want to come back on. I want to have a talk again. I was like, no, I'm not going to bring you back on. And finally, after like 3 weeks, I broke and I brought him back on. And I don't know if Shannon's in the call or not, but the next day he quit the incel forum. He's been active in our Discord and the rest of our social media. He's there every day talking to people. You can tell a huge change with him. And why is that? Because I was willing to have those conversations with him. If I'd listened to the majority and just said, no, I'm not platforming him. All I do is espouse hate.
Have you verified that he quit? Have you verified?
Oh, yes.
Oh, how did you verify?
He's just pretending.
I don't know. I mean, these guys tend to pretend all the time on the freaking internet. I'm a victim of
Gigacell. If you're watching, I think you are. Dave will give you a link to come in here, and you can tell.
I really don't want to talk to a person that's been that. I have a history.
That's been that. He's not that anymore.
I'm sorry. I need some more verification than that. Other than he just told me he quit. I need something more than that. I'm not going to be in a call with an incel. I'm sorry.
I'll be in a call with an incel.
As being a woman who's been assaulted, I really don't want to talk to people like that.
Okay, Jim.
So I think one of the biggest problems in society and the reason there are so many bad ideas that are so prominent and not even just ideas, just bad actions is because we tend to look at bad ideology and bad actions and bad behavior